Hey everybody, Daniel Ramsey here with MyOutDesk, and today we've got a special conversation with Barron Guss. He is in Hawaii, so we're going to hear all about what's happening with tourism and the Hawaiian economy, so I'm excited about that. Barron is the president and CEO of simplicityHR. It's Hawaii's leader in the human resource outsourcing, and so I'm excited to have you here today, Barron. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Yep, and we've got Todd Cohn. Todd is the president and principal of Fidelio Advisors. Todd, thanks for joining us today.
Appreciate it. Good to be here.
And he is in his house, and it's a beautiful home. Look at that background, you guys. It's great. Guys, okay, we're here because we want to add value to entrepreneurs and business owners across the country. And we're talking about what's going on in Corona times, as I like to call it. We have a BC, which is before Corona, and an AC, after Corona. And we're going to primarily focus on a conversation around what employers need to consider or think about in terms of growing revenue, keeping their employees safe, and what the new world is going to be like. So let's just start off, Barron, with let's talk about what's going on in Hawaii. #1 tourist destination in the U.S. So a lot of people are going to be wondering, you know?
Well, sure. So I think one of the things people don't realize, Hawaii is the farthest removed landmass anywhere on Earth. It takes longer to get to Hawaii than anywhere on by a plane. So with that, we have a little bit of what I would call an isolationist mentality. It's that way every day, before Corona, after Corona. But during Corona, our governor was quick to shut down travel to Hawaii. You know, he basically came on the television about 45 days ago. And sadly, to everyone's dismay, he said, please stay away. So the please stay away order was taken to heart, in that today we have over 56 hotels that have been closed. You know, anecdotally, my daughter worked at one of the major hotels right on the beach in Waikiki in the Human Resources Department. Okay. So I can say she was the one handling all the layoffs and the furloughs. And of course, she locked the door behind her because she also lost her job as well. So with that, with tourism, the average daily, there's 10 flights a day coming into Hawaii. So that'll give you an idea. In contrast, there's probably about 175 prior to coronavirus. We have about 150 people a day arriving by plane. Most of those planes are carrying cargo. But tourism, for all intents and purposes, is shut off. So Waikiki is dead. I don't know if you go on some of the internet channels, you'll see a view much like anywhere in Main Street, USA. There's no one on Waikiki Beach. A side note, people still arrive here, they check into hotels, but the hotel front desk people are watching the mandatory 2-week quarantine. So maybe I forgot to mention that. If you arrive in Honolulu, you have to go into quarantine for 2 weeks, whether it be in a hotel or in your home. And if you sneak out, they arrest you. So we're taking it very seriously here. And we're not protesting, if you will. I think one important thing to understand, we have somewhat of an Asian culture, and Asian people tend to follow the rules. And God forbid, I'm not trying to be racist here. I mean, I grew up here. We're an obedient group of people. As a result, we've had a total of 10 deaths thus far with coronavirus. So it's one of the lowest in the nation, but we got on this pretty quick. But we've shut everything down, and that's kind of really the point.
What's going on with your economy? Like, are you seeing other businesses like restaurants and other businesses kind of suffer?
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting, you know, talking about this new world or the new paradigm is sure, every restaurant pretty much has shut down. The ones that understood takeout, they seem to be getting better at it. The example I give, I ride my bike daily for exercise. I live in a little beach town. And in this little beach town, like many, some of the big restaurants have shown up to capture tourism. And so we have a big brewery restaurant that seats about 300 people. For about 5 weeks, it has been closed up, nailed up, nothing going on in there. Where, you know, 8 weeks ago, there were people standing in line to get into this go-to spot.
Right.
But in contrast, next door is the burrito guy. And the burrito guy has lines today standing out, going down the street. And what I noticed, and he's always served takeout, but what I've noticed about it, he's gotten really good at it now. I've been watching the evolution as I ride my bike, past his place. There's signs out there that say, hey, we just got a new mobile app, and we ensure that when you get your food home, it will stay fresh for 30 minutes and all those kinds of things. They're adjusting their menus so food can survive getting home versus serving you a crispy something and a foam container that's a soggy mess when you get home. So the restaurants, the small ones who are quick to pivot, they're figuring this thing out.
Yeah.
I just had, and I think you guys can see this all across the nation, you know that restaurants generally need to be at full capacity to cash flow.
Right.
Well, it's pretty simple to understand, even if we open them up with social distancing, if this restaurant is at 55% of its floor space capacity, they can't make it. And unless there's going to be a tremendous reduction in, rent for these restaurants, this is me just looking into the future. I think, unfortunately, you're going to see a lot of these big restaurants start to go away, even with PPP monies, because though they'll open up, nobody's going to be inside there.
Well, I like where you're going with that conversation. I'm going to bring Todd in now. A lot of businesses are zigging and zagging or pivoting, as Barron was saying. Todd, we were talking earlier about what employers are going to have to kind of contend with reopening. And so I want to hear what you've been doing and kind of what your company has been focusing on in that space right now.
Sure. And, unlike Barron, I live almost on the opposite side of the planet from him.
Yeah.
I live in the greater Washington, D.C. area. And thankfully, I think people have been compliant here as well. And we've not seen the surge, of contagion that just, a couple hundred miles up the coast they've seen in the tri-state area. So that's thankful. And I think everyone is thankful that we've been relatively well spared, although candidly, just the city of 170,000 people I live in has more deaths than all of the state of Hawaii, apparently. Barron, consider yourself good and isolated for a positive reason this time around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
To your point, Daniel, as I continue to talk to more folks, particularly up in the greater New York, New Jersey area, the real specter of what they're going to do next is really out there, right? So everyone is sort of comfortable in this new normal. I don't know if they're comfortable, but they at least know what they're doing in this new normal for
I'm going crazy. I don't know about you guys.
Ill-defined period of time.
Yeah, more Zoom calls and I might kill myself. I mean, not really, but a little bit.
Absolutely. And when I say comfortable, unfortunately, you know what you're doing today, right? You're sitting at your house and you're getting on your Zoom calls and, but the uncertainty of what comes next, right? So at some point, and it's still weeks, if not months away, up in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. But at some point, people are going to go back to work, right? Sure. And the big question is, how is that even possible, right? How do you get from, where we've been over the last 8 weeks, in which you can go down Fifth Avenue today and literally see, antelope, tumble by if you look hard enough, to getting back to even a quarter of what Manhattan used to be, or the close-in suburbs in terms of getting back to work. And so, as I've been talking to, whether it's HR providers, even larger law firms, brokerage groups that are out there that are all kind of tackling this same dilemma together, it started to look at, resources and putting together resources to actually instill both confidence in the employees, coalesce around a plan for each of the businesses, and then actually provide the resources and tools to have everyone feel confident that they can make this work. To that end, I've been working with a whole bunch of folks and in trying to develop, sort of what we are loosely calling sort of an employee return to work toolkit.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings all these things together. And, I think we all have seen over the last couple of weeks the craziness that's ensued from, personal protective equipment and trying to get that to first responders.
Yep.
What's gone on in the grocery stores and the hoarding with everything. And
toilet paper. Oh my
all
goodness.
All of it. And so what we're trying to do is sort of bring together some resources, to have a standardized approach towards, getting confidence in both the employees that it's safe to come back to work, as well as feeling that the employers themselves have a plan that they can clearly communicate and actually put into action once that day does come. And so, things that we've been looking at and putting at in an employee toolkit that would go straight to the house of an employee is not only communication, right, from the CEO, from senior management, as well as sort of instructions, how we're going to do this, how we're going to make it happen, when it's going to happen, but more importantly, some tools to make it happen. Things, simple things, but important things like, hand sanitizer, non-surgical masks, right? To make people feel that they can actually go back to work. But this, I think, last part will be the game changer, which is getting access to at-home collection test kits, right? Because candidly, in hard-hit areas, particularly up in the Northeast, COVID-19 is not going away. I mean, it's going to continue to decline. And if anyone watches The Governor, New York every day on TV, they can see the curve coming down, but it's not going to totally evaporate. And so, having the ability to reach out, not only communicate, but to instill confidence both in the individual employee, but the allied workforce by having these almost instantaneous, it take about 24 to 48 hours to get results, but tests in which, they can administer it themselves as an employee in their house, and within a very, very short period of time, feel that confidence that's being supplied by their employer, right, to be able to come back to work.
I like that. What are you thinking, Barron?
I'm thinking that I'm going to buy a bunch of those return to work kits from Todd is what I'm thinking. I think it's a really good idea, actually.
Well, I think there's definitely a part of restoring the mental capacity of a company collectively as a group and removing fear. So I'm curious, Barron, what are the things that you think should go in that kit? And then Todd, let's add to the kit, or let's give the audience what makes sense for employers to provide maybe in May or June when we all come back to an office environment.
Like I said, I think Todd and his group, they're futurists in thinking about that, because this is all about emotion at this point.
Yep.
And it's a very emotional issue. I mean, I can even tell you personally, what we have is when you have CEOs like myself, you have what I call the hero syndrome. And that was, I got 280 people that work for me at ALTRES. And we started sending them home. But of course, I don't want to be going home first, because I want to be there right in the trenches with my people. One of the areas in a PEO that, though we do our best and we try to get everybody on electronic, deposit and, paper and eliminate paper checks, in our little paradigm, we still had 7,000 people that were on paper checks, and for whatever reason, they're unbanked and they're not moving. So we had frontline payroll processors, as we still do today in the office. I say that to say this: I finally had to remove myself, because I had to really understand that I'm of that at-risk age group. I know I look 12 years old, but unfortunately, I passed that big milestone. I'm as we say in Hawaii, it's called a kapuna. That just means old guy, to make a long story short. And what good would I be if I was sick to the rest of my people? I'm still the leader. I still have great people in place. We have contingency plans, but I needed to stay healthy. So the reverse of that is, I've got to feel that I'm not putting my company and my people in jeopardy when I personally even return to work.
Right.
And so that's going to be the hurdle, I guess, we have to figure out. How do we get people to really feel confident that when they return back? I'm taking you on a little bit of a tangent because we're talking about what does the world look like, AC, after coronavirus. And we talked about, well, how hotels come back. And I kind of think the world's changed a little. And here's my example. We're in a visitor destination. People come here for sure for business, but they come here to visit.
Yep.
And usually when people visit, beyond staying in people's homes, they stay in hotels. And I started thinking about the concept, do I want to put myself and my family at risk checking into a hotel and ensuring that it was sterilized from the night before, from the guest the night before? Am I willing to put my health, my future, my life, my livelihood in the hands of, a sanitation worker in the hotel? The answer at this point is no, because there's no protocol, there's no standards. So I started imagining you're going to see the large hotel chains come up with this advertising concept that you can stay at Acme Inn because we have a 22-point sanitation regimen that
Right.
you and your family can count on. And you're going to see that. And you're going to see that, I think, even in offices, the management is going to need to get their employees to feel confident that they have brought in the sanitation people, and every night they're going to sanitize everything. I don't want to drone on, but I want to drone on because it's kind of funny about this. I had a friend who was in the janitorial business. And I said, how do you make money doing this? You have to empty the waste paper baskets. You have to, wipe down the desks, wipe down this, wipe down that. And he says, we only actually clean the things that people can see. And then when the customer calls and says, hey, on the top of the cubicles, it's dusty, then we get in and clean the top of the cubicles. Because if we tried to do it every day. So that being said, if that is the standard that we were accustomed to, and most people kind of know that, how do we raise the standard? And then more importantly, are people going to actually pay for it? Is there going to be value, and will they compensate?
Well, Barron, I think you guys have another challenge. I don't know that many people are going to want to ride on a plane, because hotels, at least, they're an open place. You can kind of sanitize your own little space, but on a plane, recycled air right next to somebody squeezed up. I want to, Alvin, go ahead in the notes and add a link to, so Fresno, California was the first government entity, whether it was local, state, or federal, to put out a guideline for employers to follow, a safety standard. And we wrote a blog on that, so we'll put those in the show notes. And what's wild is they actually have a standard. Like Fresno said, if you're an employer and you have people coming into your office, you need to ask them, have they traveled? Have they been exposed to anybody who has flu-like symptoms? Are they personally experiencing anything in the last 48 hours? And then, do you currently have a temperature? And like, they had a checklist for employers, right? I thought that was really cool, because 3 weeks ago, when everybody else was like, I don't know what to do, they actually put that out. And so we did a blog post, and we've got that in the show notes for everybody that's listening. Todd, what are in these return to work kits, and what should employers be thinking about as we come back to work?
Yeah, well, I think the most critical part, right, is communication and a plan, right? At the end of the day, you can say that you have the best sanitation crew, that you have the most advanced chemicals to clean the office, et cetera. But to really instill confidence in your workforce, I think, you really need to be an effective communicator. And as Barron does so well out in Hawaii, right, is to truly be a leader with a plan, right? And whatever that plan might be. I mean, the plan might be, hey, listen, we don't know, but we're honest enough to tell you. Mm-hmm. I think that's first and foremost. And I think that's a hallmark of whether it's something that we're developing, to try to sort of mass disseminate, or someone that's doing it uniquely at their own company. That's sort of the hallmark of it, which is communication, and really, I would say, genuine communication. I mean, we see throughout our work lives so much communication, right? That it's BS, right? They're platitudes. In a lot of cases, it's a form that someone adds your name and their signature, and everything else is fake, right? So
right.
It's really that genuine communication, and really, I think beyond everything else, if I were to boil it down to the two most important things, it's the communication and honesty of a plan, and to the extent at all possible, right? It's the ability to provide something to your employees that they can't get on their own, right? In order to instill that confidence. And in today's day and age, and hopefully this will change, right? I don't want this to be, a market for return to work kits, but right now it's testing. Yeah. I mean, the ability for,
I couldn't agree more. Testing is everything that's going on, because vaccination isn't.
No, and right now, I mean, so it was just 3 days ago that the FDA issued their first emergency use authorization for an at-home collection test. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a little late. And at this point, I mean, I know there's a backlog, and we've been doing a lot of work to kind of understand what's going on in that space, how soon we think the FDA is going to issue other emergency use authorizations, and then the time to market between when they issue the authorization and when these providers can actually get these tests out. Yeah. So LabCorp was the first that they issued the EUA to 3 days ago. Mm-hmm. And predictably, right, you can go on LabCorp's website today, and they have limited capacity, right? Yeah. If you're not a first responder, you can't get one. And so I think it's going to be key, both to testing to see if you have it. And then, after the fact, I think that's probably number one. Number two is the immunity. And I think there are different schools of thought about what the immunity test is really going to tell you, and whether it's effective or not effective. But over time, I think, we deal with an immediate sort of, how do you get people back to work, and how do you instill that confidence that they can be there? And then, how do you have resources as an employer, i.e. Having, access to, for instance, 2 tests for every employee, right? Meaning one that you've sent them in the return to work kit, and then one that you have in a locked, storage location on site. So that when people start exhibiting signs, you have a standard procedure in which you can isolate them, i.e. send them home with a kit to test themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And try to get help for that person if they are sick, but also try to distance them from the rest of the workforce, right? Well, it's going to be touch and go for the first couple months, I think.
Well, I think that's the challenge. Is I want to pull you guys into today, like right now. How would we, so what we have is communication, a plan, some safety protocols, maybe some cleaning protocols, a test kit if they become available en masse. What other kind of items? Because let's say I'm in California, so we're all spread out, right? But where I was going is, like, if I'm an employer, and we all are, right? We need to get back to work in sometime in May or June. What other things can I do right now to provide a good environment? Or what other thoughts should we be thinking about?
You want to go first, Barron?
No, I want you to go first, because
no, that's fine. I'll go. Listen,
we can go simultaneously.
Yeah, listen. It's a good question, and I think the message about redoing your floors in your office, right? It actually is a good parallel here, right? So I was reading yesterday, and I forget what publication it was, but it was talking about what some employers in Denmark right, are doing to offices there to sort of prepare people to come back to work. And in some cases, they have come back to work in Denmark, and things that they're doing, right? And some of the things seemed really off the wall, right? Like they have these disposable desk pads that, you know, they put on every employee's desk, and then at the end of the day, they can take it off and get rid of it, right? So that, you know, I think it's fairly impractical in this day and age. But they're also talking about, you know, the new norm. Like they had this whole segment about the 6-foot office, right? And now creating office environments in which you're reconfiguring, right, to have everything a minimum of 6 feet apart, right? And it's a reversal of fortune. What's been going on for the last 10 years is a trend towards open offices, right? And now
I might add, thank God they're actually looking at that for airliners, because they're now figuring out that they're going to have to give people more legroom, and I can't wait.
And listen, when you're 5'7", every seat is first class. So, you know,
that's funny.
But, you know, I think it's instructive, you know, what employers should be doing at this point. There's a lot of things that they should be thinking about, but particularly on this topic to sort of prepare for the inevitable, which is coming back to work, is to really take this time. And whether it's redoing their floors or, you know, working with a designer, you know, office space designer who's at home just like we are, right? To come up with some solutions utilizing what you got in order to, you know, at the very least, right, look at some short, mid, and long-term solutions that are going to carry us through. And it's uncertain, right? We don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know, you know, whether this is something that may be eradicated, you know, 12 months down the road through a vaccine, or, you know, whether this is forever. I mean, it shocked me that this has not been out in the news more, but I heard just 2 days ago that if and when a vaccine is created for COVID-19, it would be the very first vaccine ever for a coronavirus. What does that tell you?
So I need to take a stab at the vaccine thing for you guys, because, you know, I sit here in isolation, and one of the things I like to do is think about the future and think about the math of the thing. So I started thinking to myself, okay, tomorrow we have a vaccine, and we come online quickly, and we put 2 plants in China, 2 plants in the United States, 1 in Israel, because let's face it, they make great drugs over there, and 1 in the Netherlands because they're calm and have a great way of life. We have 6 plants. Each plant can make 10,000 vaccines in an hour. Okay, that's basically pumping out close to 3 vaccines every second. And let's just say each plant stays open for 12 hours a day. That would be a kind of a decent average when you understand that they got to grow this stuff in a petri dish still. You know, you just don't make it. The vaccines are a byproduct of the other half of the disease.
Yeah, it's a 7-year process, no matter what.
No, so it's 720,000 vaccines a day. I think that's a pretty good amount of vaccine they're pumping out in their 6 plants.
Right.
At that rate, it would take 30 years to vaccinate the 7.8 billion people in the world. So if you want to start saying, okay, we're going to double it, we now got 12 plants, or we have 36 plants, you're still talking about 10 years with 36 plants. Okay, so now I understand, because I'm not a vaccine specialist, but I understand the math. You don't have to actually kill every saber-toothed tiger in the world for them to become extinct. Right. Because once you start this pattern, it will become extinct. But I come back to, and I got some age on both of you, when I was a little kid and we went into school cafeteria and they vaccinated the whole school, they didn't ask us our name. They didn't ask us if we were allergic to peanut butter. They didn't ask us anything. They had this gun and they shot us in the arm, and I have the scar to prove it. In today's world, I just gave you the number, 3 vaccines being manufactured every second. There's no way in heck we're going to be able to vaccinate the same amount of 7.8 billion people in that 30-year time.
Right.
So vaccination, though important, it's almost going to be somewhat elusive. It's going to be there in the front lines. It's going to be important. But as Todd started to allude to before, testing is where this is going to be. But before we even talk about testing, I kind of think about when I went into hibernation 6 weeks ago, basically the futurists said 50% of the world population by the end of the year is going to get COVID-19, right? You've going to heard that. And X, I don't remember how big the number was going to die, but they were going to die. Well, I've been here in hibernation now doing what I'm doing. I'm still going out and riding my bike. I still go to the grocery store and buy some groceries. I am a little bit crazy in that after I go outside, I take my clothing off and I take a quick shower with soap because I heard soap is good versus spraying myself with, isopropyl alcohol from head to toe. But the point is, I feel in my heart right now, not only is there not very much a chance for me to catch COVID-19, I don't think I'm going to catch the common cold either. Because the fact that I'm wearing a mask, the fact that I wash my hands basically incessantly, I don't shake hands with people I don't know, don't shake hands with people I do know.
Yeah.
So I come back to entering the workplace. I think just with a modicum of what we are really doing right now, not to get sick, I think that transfers even into the workplace. If we don't hug anybody and we don't share pens and we don't share keyboards and we don't share telephones and we wash our hands every time we go into the bathroom, when we leave the bathroom, when we go into the lunchroom, if we just start trying to protect ourselves in the common sense way, I think we're going to hold a good amount of this off. Then I still circle back to what Todd talked about, testing. And not only do I think return to work testing is going to be important, I've actually heard, different discussions that once you test somebody, you need to keep testing them every 2 weeks, not for the resurgence of the virus, but you need to make sure that if they're in the restaurant serving food and we start to relax some of this, we're still making sure that we know when and if that person tests positive within a short time frame where these people have been.
Yeah.
And I can't even begin to talk about iPhone and Android big brother tracking. I don't know if I personally want to go there, but I understand how it could be possible. But I just think we're already setting ourselves up to minimize and mitigate exposure. I know I have for the last 6 weeks, and I think both of you look pretty healthy to me, kind of.
So, okay, assume this is the new normal. My last question, we're going to wrap up. We'll let the audience know how they could get in touch with you guys. But my last question is, assuming this is the new normal, that we're distancing, that we're not using each other's pens and washing our hands all the time, showering with soap, that's probably a new normal for a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
What's
showering period?
Yeah. What's the long-term effects of this, and how do I get my company to thrive in this time frame? Like, what do I do with sales? What do I do with getting new clients? How do we survive as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, from your guys' perspective in this new normal, which some people are saying 3 to 5 years?
So I'll start and I'll let Barron wrap it up. It's actually a really good pitch, for the human resource outsourcing industry, whether you talk PEO or ASO or payroll plus HR, however you define that, right? Because at the end of the day, for folks who weren't using these types, of outsourcing opportunities, they cobbled together a whole host of different resources, but they were successful, particularly in the small to mid-sized business market, that they can be successful because they were generally in 1 or 2 locations, right? So, but they were coming to an office location.
Mm-hmm.
I think, even for larger businesses, what we've been through now sort of underscores, sort of the changing of the guard, if you will, in terms of what it means to be a worker and what it means to come to work. There are businesses that for 80 years may have had physical locations. And if you work for that company, that's where you came every single day, right? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I think, what we're going to see as a result of this is really a new normal on a lot of things, but not the least of which is, what a workplace is defined as. And as you decentralize, right, the physical location and physical ties of employees to a place, right, the importance of HR, right, and workplace practices, the ability to access policies and people in real time, it will become more and more important. And it's something that can't be done, I think, for a lot of these old line companies who have tried to do it themselves because of their ability to, actually be together at a physical location. And so, I think it's a good plug over time, for the importance that professionals sort of in the HRO space not only have historically provided, but the importance of those organizations into the future as sort of this new normal starts to arise.
Okay. I like that. Barron, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Continuing on a little bit what Todd said, the fact is that though we are all glued to the news, when we talk about businesses, we're really talking about our government's relief efforts. And a lot of that focuses around the CARES Act and specifically the PPP program.
Right.
So the PPP program, most people think that it was a way for businesses to finance themselves through this, but it really wasn't. It was really a program put in place, plain and simple, to get money into the hands of working Americans. And employers were the perfect, if you will, conduit from the Treasury into the hands of your employees. The SBA's loan process was arduous at best, but I say that to say this, that I witnessed the clients of a PEO, my PEO, making application and receiving their loans, in contrast to other businesses out there who are trying to gather together this data and information without the assistance and help of an expert who was managing it. Sure, many businesses have CPAs, but the CPAs tell their business owner, go home, get me all the documents, bring it back to me, do your homework, and so on. Right. In contrast, a PEO, a client of a PEO, essentially pressed one button, one click, and downloaded all their reports, made their applications, were first in line, got their money, got back. So I think it's this level of expertise that are going to help businesses survive and thrive. And so what we talk about is, now's a great time to take everything in your organization and run it through a litmus test, a very sophisticated test using the eyes of your customers. Right. Anything your customers have value for and value to, focus on it. Anything your customers don't care about, outsource, get rid of it. Even if it costs you money, now is the time to be smart with your available dollars, your available resources, your available time. Focus on your business. And so I think outsourcing in any way, shape, or form, specializing on what you do, is paramount as you start strategizing for the future, because there's not enough time available. Even though these days are long, they sure feel short. We're at home. I think everybody will agree. Where did the day go?
Yeah, I agree. Well, guys, thanks for being here. If you're listening right now, MyOutDesk, we put together a Go Remote guide. So if you're right now struggling with getting your people together, building culture, understanding the tools or technology, all you have to do is text MOD to 31996, and you'll get our 13 years of experience having a fully remote workforce. So we're giving that away. Guys, where would somebody get a hold of you? Let's say they wanted to have a further conversation and they wanted to find out more. Where would somebody just find you?
Well, Todd, you go first.
Yeah, if somebody wants Todd to get a work from home kit, how would they find you, Todd?
Easiest way, check out my website, the
Yep.
business's website, www.fidelioadvisors.com. You can find out all types of information, not the least of which is how to find me.
Perfect. And what do you guys, Todd, my understanding is that you consult in the PEO, HRO kind of space, and you help businesses kind of drive revenue and make model changes. Is that kind of your secret sauce?
It is, so I spent the greater part of a decade working alongside of the management team at TriNet, and really helping them innovate, grow, acquire, and become sort of a leading and innovative PEO in the space.
Yep.
And along the way, I started to really see these undertones of the next generation of HRO starting to develop, right? The proliferation of new software and IT technology, proliferation of insurance really growing up and embracing AI for underwriting and risk assessment. And then I think the third piece of that was really seeing a lot of capital flow into the markets and really want to spend on sort of HR outsourcing and sort of this insurance bundle all together. And so, I kind of put two and two together and said, hey, listen, based on the background I had, based on a lot of the experience I had, I started a company in order to really be the spark to ignite sort of these undertones and undercurrents that were out there, and really helping to develop sort of that next generation of HRO. And so that's really what I spend my time doing and helping those companies bridge from where we are today to where we're going to be tomorrow.
I love it. Okay. Hey, Barron, how would somebody find you?
Sure. So real simple. The name of our company is simplicityHR. You can find us at simplicityhr.com. I would say for your viewers today, also don't hesitate to click on our COVID-19 resource page. You'll see that link on our website. Once you arrive there, you will see a plethora of resources, a lot of how-tos, a lot of guides, a lot of things we talked about, return to work. To find me, I am the CEO of a little larger umbrella. The name of our company is ALTRES, ALTRES. So it's Barron, very simple, BARRON at altres.com. Send me something. I'm always interested. I do respond to all the emails, and unless you're trying to sell me something, I might throw that in the trash. But say, hey, this is not spam, and I'll actually talk to you. Or more importantly, reference Mod Virtual, and I'll be happy to talk with you.
Okay, that's awesome. Hey guys, final thoughts, final piece of advice for the entrepreneurs out there, for other PEO companies, for people in the HRO space. What's your final thought? And I want to just thank you for being here and sharing your time. I know how valuable it is.
So I would say this, right? Take a deep breath and use this as an opportunity, not to shrink, but to grow, right? I think we're all going to get through this when the smart people, and I consider all of us and all those who are listening, the smart people out there, but when the smart people actually use this as an opportunity to use their practical background and skills, right, to solve problems. And I think, again, some problems are intractable. I can't develop the vaccine. I can't figure out how to get it to 7 billion people in 24 hours.
Nope.
But what I can do, and I think what others can do, is really to leverage our muscle up here to figure out practical ways to instill that confidence in both your business, your employees, and strategy to move forward.
I love it. Barron, what would you wrap us up with?
Sure. Well, as we talked earlier in the day, the fact is, strangely enough, we're actually gaining customers today. There are businesses that were well capitalized, that this was simply a hiccup in their startup roadmap. They understand it, but they still have their long-term intent in mind and their goal. And to them, it doesn't really matter if they're working from home or if they're working in an office building. They still are doing what they're doing. So I would say stay focused. One of the things I see that going on is PEO owners like myself, we're being pulled at every direction, a lot from our customers currently, because a lot of them are in panic mode. And when I say stay focused, it's important to be something to someone than rather trying to be everything to everyone. Your employees are counting on you, your customers are counting on you. Those are the most important people in your life beyond your family. And take some time to get up from your desk and go say hi to the people you love in your family, because it's important you maintain those relationships with them during this and well after this. So don't make excuses for how busy you are.
That's awesome. Hey guys, thank you so much again for being here. If you're listening, I loved our conversation about how to return to work and do it the right way as an employer and take care of your employees. Again, I just want to make sure that if you're listening, you grab our free guide of going remote. All you have to do is text MOD to 31996. And guys, again, thank you for your time and being here and sharing all your knowledge and wisdom. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Be safe.